Coming up on National Report, 8.3%. The latest inflation numbers for the month of April. Is the long-awaited surge in inflation over? Well, not just yet, economists say. How the soaring inflation is affecting your household.
Plus, protesters marching from the U.S. Capitol to the Senate demanding lawmakers pass a bill that would codify Roe v. Wade into law. But with the divided Senate, Majority Leader Schumer likely won't have the votes to pass it.
And this baby formula shortage sweeping the nation as stores struggle to keep these necessities on the shelf. Demand growing out of control right now. We're going to talk to a mom that's caught in the middle of this major issue later in this broadcast.
It is a very serious story we're keeping our eye on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to National Report. Good Wednesday morning to you. So glad you're here. I'm Emma Reckenberg.
I'm Sean Kreisman. Thank you so much for joining us. The votes are in from the Nebraska and West Virginia primaries. Former President Trump's endorsement saw a big win in Virginia there. His pick, Mooney, winning out again in Virginia, West Virginia rather. However, some of the focus out of the primary was actually Trump's first endorsement loss as his gubernatorial pick in Nebraska fell to Jim Pillen. Pillen will be joining us right here on National Report to talk about his win.
Plus, pro-abortion activists set their sights today on the homes of all 6 conservative justices in the D.C. area, and also on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, calling her inaction during the fallout of the Roe v. Wade SCOTUS leak careless and cowardly representation. One of the major protesting groups, Ruth Sent Us, planning protests on both coasts today as part of their so-called Walk by Wednesday campaign.
And inflation numbers boiling over. New consumer price index report released just moments ago showing inflation reaching 8.3%. So is the economy bouncing, or is Biden-inflation reaching stagflation? To break this down, these economic concerns will bring in former Trump senior economic advisor, co-founder of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, Stephen Moore. Stephen, thanks so much for coming back on. So here we are again, 8.3. However, as you know, it was predicted that it might be 8.1%, so it is a little higher than economists predicted. However, it's lower than 8.5. The big question, has inflation peaked? How do you read that?
Well, do you want the good news or bad news?
Let's go with good.
There's good news and bad news in this report. Yeah, inflation is coming down a little bit. So I think people can take some, enthusiasm in that, but not nearly fast enough to bring the inflation rate down to we need to get inflation down to 2 or 3%, not 8.3%. And so some improvement in those numbers, but I think that what really bothers me the most is really what Biden said yesterday. Because the president has to take this tiger by the tail and get the inflation under control. We can't have 6, 7, 8, 9% inflation. It'll wreck the economy. You've seen what's happened with the stock market. And there was nothing in that report, in that speech that Biden gave yesterday that gave anybody any inspiration or confidence that he knows what he's doing. It was more government spending, more taxes, finger pointing, and I thought it was just an abysmal speech. It did not provide Americans with the confidence they want. It was just, it's Putin's fault, or it's Trump's fault, or it's MAGA's fault, or this is the first president I've seen in my lifetime that just refuses to take any responsibility for what's happening in his own White House.
Senator Rick Scott, he's one of those that really spoke out about this, as you know, which was called the senator from Wisconsin. Yeah. He's from Florida by President Biden. But Senator Rick Scott was one that said, hey, get out of the way, resign, because whatever you're doing is not working, as you're pointing out, even in the speech. It's a blame on COVID, on Delta, on Omicron, on Putin. Here it is again, the speech you're talking about, blaming Republicans. Here's that.
Now, what's the congressional Republican plan? They don't want to solve inflation by lowering your costs. They want to solve it by raising your taxes and lowering your income. Their plan has actually made working families, going to make working families poorer.
Your response to that, is that what the American people want to see? And then is there really any truth to that?
Well, look, we've talked about this so many times on your show. What caused the inflation was the trillions and trillions of dollars that Biden spent. And by the way, there was a lot of spending at the end of the Trump administration as well. So all of that money that we just pumped into the economy that was going to be free money, that was the match that lit this forest fire of inflation. So that means you have to stop the government spending if you want to bring the inflation down. And yet everything that Biden said yesterday, did you notice this? We're going to have more spending on electric vehicles, more windmills. We're going to have more money for child care assistance, elder care assistance. We're going to provide more money for farmers. It was just more and more spending when that's what caused the crisis in the first place. And I think that's what makes me so nervous. We are skirting right on the verge of a recession right now. We're seeing a crash in the stock market where trillions and trillions of dollars of retirement funds have been lost in just the last few days. And this president is sitting there blaming the Republicans for it. Look, the last time I checked, the Democrats control the House, the Senate, the White House, all the regulatory agencies. How in the world is that Republicans' fault?
Right. Yeah, he was referring to draft of what was proposed by Senator Rick Scott. But again, pointing to the facts, you cannot ignore that the Democrats own the House, own the Senate, own the White House, but not
and by
owning.
the way, let me just say one other quick thing.
Yeah.
The Republican plan, I've been on the Hill a lot lately, is to actually make the Trump tax cuts permanent, so that those tax cuts don't go away. It's Biden who's against that. And he proposed in his plan yesterday about $1 trillion tax increase on American companies and, quote, the rich. How in the world is higher taxes going to bring inflation down?
Yeah, and we get back to that point of ownership. As a leader and leader of this country, do you take ownership? Reporters were asking him that question, and here's how that went down.
Do you take any responsibility for your policies?
I think our policies help, not hurt. Think about what they say. The vast majority of the economists think that this is going to be a real tough problem to solve, but it's not because of spending. We've brought down the deficit.
Your thoughts on that? Is it really helping? Are his policies helping when you see, again, still a 40-year high inflation rate?
Well, come on. To believe that Joe Biden is trying to all his spending is alleviating inflation is like thinking that Al Capone was a crime fighter. My goodness. All of this, the first thing he did was get in office was spend. They're exercising a philosophy on the left called modern monetary theory, which is you can just keep spending and spending and borrowing, and it's not going to have negative effects. And they were wrong. They were wrong. It has had negative effects. It's driving up this is something Milton Friedman taught us. There's a great thing on the web going around where just comparing what Milton Friedman would say about the economy versus Joe Biden. Milton Friedman said when you've got an inflation crisis, you have to cut government spending. You've got to rein in the spending. We're doing just the opposite. So I don't think anybody believes that Joe Biden is trying to bring down the deficit. Few days, he said that, by the way, a few days after he proposed another $1.5 trillion of student loan relief spending. I mean, all they want to do is spend money.
Right. And it's funny you mentioned anyone and what they believe. We actually sent someone out to ask folks on the street what they think. It's one thing to talk to government officials, as you know,
right.
But here's what the people on the street think about inflation and who's to blame for it. Here's that.
Oh, for the inflation, I think the president we have now is to blame. Yeah, Biden. I think he's all to blame.
Joe Biden. The Democrats.
And I would say primarily the current administration.
I definitely believe that the present administration has a lot to do with it.
Probably Biden, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. He's not doing that great of a job.
He promised a lot, and he hasn't really, come through with any of his promises.
The pandemic didn't help the chip shortage and the labor shortage. Somebody has to pay for that.
Your reaction to those folks and also the messaging from this White House, Putin's price hike clearly is not working.
I listened to those folks, and I got to tell you, I've been traveling around the country myself. I've been about 5 states in the last couple of weeks. And when I say to people, we have 8% inflation, they get angry at me. They say, what are you talking about? It's not 8%. People who buy things every day, gasoline prices are up 80%. Food prices are up 30%. You saw that we have a problem with the baby formula. Those prices are up. Car prices are up. So people are saying to me, I'm not facing 8% inflation. I'm seeing 20, 25% inflation. because the things that people buy every day are up so much. And what frustrates me, if I sound frustrated this morning, I am. And I'm frustrated because I truly believe that if we still had Trump in the White House with the Trump policies, the economy would be booming. I mean, my God, COVID is over. Businesses should be reopening. People should be going back to work. Why isn't that happening? In large part because we're paying people not to work.
Unbelievable. All right. Thank you so much for breaking that down, Stephen. Always good to see you, as always. Stephen Moore joining us live here to help us understand the impacts on your wallet. We appreciate that and other viewers.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.